Starting the broadcast and you're walking away.
I'm here.
Are you? Are you here?
Yes.
That's the thing that you don't really do. You don't hit my feet. I appreciate that.
That's why the feet don't do anything for me.
I know. Can you do me a favor?
Yes, I can.
Can you put this in the sink?
Sure can.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna go pee real quick.
Oh, my God.
Oh, shut up. Coming from you?
Yeah, coming from me. Okay.
Okay.
Intro, what are we drinking? Main topic. Then we do homework review.
Homework review.
New homework, player skip.
Oh, fuck. I gotta give you.
Yeah, I definitely don't have any homework picked for you. Can you have fun? Thanks, Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
How is my phone on 8%?
I don't know.
Where's my phone charger? Is that my phone charger?
Yeah. I brought it in here.
When you say it like that, I don't know why it makes you think.
Don't go. Don't go. We could just put it on the table so we could like share it easier if you want.
We could do that.
Put it in between us. What do you think about them apples?
I think that them apples sound
It's
pretty
pretty
good.
good.
It's pretty good.
Do you like them apples?
Do you like apples? How do you like them apples? Okay, go. And go.
Damn it.
That was funny.
To talk.
I don't know why that makes me LOL.
I don't either, but you really do like it though.
So hard. To talk. He's so funny. Let's make as much noise in this intro as possible.
What? In cars.
I feel like 22.
I don't know about you.
I'm feeling 22.
I'm feeling 22.
I'm not. I'm feeling about 47.
So I'm finally feeling my age of 28. Finally.
Finally. Okay. Let me ask you something. Are you ready to do this?
Yep.
It feels weird to do this in the same room as you. I like it.
Oh my
I'm
god.
gonna do the show.
That'd be awesome.
Lane had to step out for a quick second.
Uh-huh.
Her hands are full. All right. Are you ready to do this?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it to it. I don't have to get that close to the microphone.
You really don't. You could just talk and then we'll pick it up.
What was the name of the album that you assigned me? It was Lo Jones.
Oh, L Jones.
L Jones.
Soul Below, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes, full album Soul Below. Yes.
Okay.
God damn, that's a good album.
Mm-hmm. I have a whole thing of albums that I want. Every time I think of one, I put it down. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Go for it.
You're typing.
I am.
Hey, hi, hello, everybody, and welcome to Epic Rhythm and Brews. I'm part of your host, Lainey.
And I'm the other half, Parker, or Andrew.
And we're very slowly trying to get used to this very different setup because we're actually in the same room.
For the first time
Yeah,
ever.
for the first time recording this ever.
Pretty weird.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. Also, we are recording on location.
Yeah.
So if you hear random birds, it's because
This is a live setting.
yeah, this is a live setting. So like nature and shit is happening outside.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you hear assholes on jet skis or birds, that would be why. So just FYI.
Fly.
Just fly, just so you know. We've been gone for a really, really long time.
Yes.
It's been a while. It's been since December, I think, since we've
We had the Christmas mini-sode.
released anything. Stuff's just been going down, guys.
Yeah, a lot of stuff, but we are going to be back at it to a regular every couple of weeks is what we're usually
like
doing.
once a month, yeah.
Yeah.
Once a month.
Yeah.
That's what we're shooting for. So if you get an extra one that month, just get really stoked.
We're doing our best.
We're trying our hardest, okay? We get a gold star for effort.
Yes.
Anyway, it's time to ask America's favorite question. Parker, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Carbox Lemon and Ginger Radler. Really good. You wouldn't think that lemon and ginger in a beer are as good, but this is probably one of my favorite, definitely summer beers. Super easy to drink.
Oh, it's drinkable, guys. It's
Yeah.
very drinkable.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking the other beer that you bought at the store.
Right.
Which was just a classic Blue Moon Summer Honey Wheat.
Which is actually pretty good.
It is actually a really good beer. We're give you a little bit of background. We're at a river house, enjoying a little time off.
Yeah. Literally looking at the river right now.
Yeah, looking at the river right now in an undisclosed location. So whenever we do stuff like this, we usually go to the store and get a bunch of alcohol and
yes,
pick up some beers that are just kind of chill, easy to drink out on the kayaks.
And spring is essentially here in Texas, so
it's beautiful outside, and that usually means we get to drink a lighter beer as opposed to something deep and dark and heavy in the summer.
Yes.
Plus, I don't know about you, but I really fucking hate drinking like a stout when I'm in a body of water.
See, I'm a terrible person, and I still do, but it's so much nicer the day after.
Yes, I will drink a Guinness any day of the year. However, when
it's easier.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about like being outside and being on the water and going and doing stuff all day.
Yeah, it's different than like chilling at your house or at a bar, sitting,
Yes.
drinking a big, dark, heavy beer versus kayaking, which is what we're doing. Not currently, honestly.
Not right now. That would be fucking crazy though.
Just being outside is a lot better than like having like a beer belly while you're trying to slosh around.
Yeah, like full of stout.
No one likes that.
A big ass porter.
Yeah, right?
Yikes.
But yeah, so.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Over here.
So that's what we're doing. So we are actually continuing our Decades with Dummies series today. We're kind of stoked actually to do this one because
we essentially started doing the whole thing for the 70s.
Yes, we're finally going to do our 70s episode today, and that's basically why we started this. We talked a little bit about like, oh, we could do different decades. Both of us kind of just hoping to eventually culminate in the 70s.
Yeah. We stumbled through the 50s and the 60s.
We were a little more sure-footed in the 60s.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But you had to start in the 50s.
Yes.
To get background into everything else.
Yes.
It just makes more sense.
Absolutely. So that being said, we're really, really stoked. But we, Parker and I had a long conversation about doing the 70s and kind of decided that it would be best to do this in 2 parts.
Yeah, for sure.
So today what we're going to give you guys is basically an overview of like the rock and roll that was
70s
really
rock.
Prevalent in the 70s, which I personally think like that at the end of the day is what the 70s gave us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened and a lot of genres and stuff that came into prominence and were created in the 70s, but to cover all of that would be way too long, and no one wants to hear us talk for over an hour about anything. So we decided to break it up so we would only talk for 45 minutes to an hour over just the rock things, which is
exactly
embarrassing enough on its own.
Yeah.
But, so yeah,
screaming into the void.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah,
it just makes more sense to break it up a little bit because we'll cover everything else. Literally everything else that happened in the 70s. We'll talk about.
That's not true.
I guess the next episode.
Yeah, our next one will probably be the second part, or we'll do something in between. We don't fucking know. We don't know.
Yeah, we're making this up as we go.
Yeah, we are. We're doing a damn fine job of it too. That's
really?
Not true either. No.
Sweet.
No. So I don't know about you, but I can definitely say that a huge chunk of my musical taste comes from 70s rock.
Yeah. I mean, your parents as well as mine were coming of age in the early 70s. So
early
that's
to mid 70s.
Where they got their, they were listening to this stuff on the radio. So obviously when they were older, that's what they listened to. And that's what I got exposed to. So that's, the beginnings of my music knowledge comes from.
Now, lucky for us,
this stuff.
Having older parents,
yeah,
we actually got like really good music that our parents passed down to us.
Yeah, because my dad and mother, my dad graduated college in '76.
That's when my mom graduated, or no, high school.
Yeah. So my parents were in their 20s in the early 70s. So I got, they were 20 in the early 70s.
Yeah.
So they were like everyone else. When you start turning 20, you start actually listening to good music.
See, my dad was different. My dad like really got into his like musical, I guess, groove in his teens, like in his mid to late teens.
Well, yeah, but I guess it's probably different back then than it is now. Because right now, at least like when I was growing up, like you listen to music, but then you didn't really start listening to like good music, like different music.
So you're in like high school.
So like high school, college, you start listening to like growing your discography.
That's how my dad kind of was. I feel like as soon as my dad was able to start going to a record store, picking out his own stuff, like, and his taste was always very, very eclectic. He listened to a little bit of everything. But my dad graduated high school in '74, and my mom graduated in '76. Right there in the bicentennial. So there was a lot going on at that time. So it was just kind of interesting. And I think both of my parents really showed different sides of the 70s.
Yeah, I got a pretty wide swath of 70s music for sure.
Same.
But speaking of, we can start, I guess, in the early 70s music.
Absolutely we can.
So what do you want to talk about?
I have mine mostly broken down by subgenre of rock.
Okay. Well, you go for it. What you got?
I feel like the best thing that the 70s gave us was hard rock and some really early metal.
Yes, I agree.
And I think we might as well talk about the elephant in the room.
Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so the 60s was the Beatles.
Yes. I feel like the 60s, you got into some more experimental stuff with the Beatles, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the 60s, we were still kind of growing from that like Chuck Berry sensibility.
Rock and roll.
Yes, rock and roll as opposed to rock.
Which are two very different things. Yeah.
And I know you're not going to like this, but I do feel like the Rolling Stones bridged a lot of that gap. Not solely, not by themselves.
Yeah,
but I feel like
I agree. I mean, you know that I'm not the biggest fan of them, but I
respect that.
But I can appreciate that. I would agree with you that they bridged that gap of rock and roll stuff to actual legitimate rock that we consider rock nowadays.
Yes,
but I agree with you.
Yes. So, but that being said, I mean, I feel like you get into the 70s and you get a lot of that, like Zeppelin, Alice Cooper, fucking Kiss.
Kiss.
I feel like Kiss to me, I classify as more like early glam rock.
Yeah, I could see Kiss being glam. Yeah, where they really started putting a lot of emphasis on the stage presence.
Yes.
Versus just rocking out on the stage.
And I feel like Alice Cooper did that as well. And that to me is very like the idea of really giving a shit about like telling a story on stage as opposed to just going out there and letting your music speak to you. And I think that we still see a lot of the effects of that now.
The 70s, late 60s, you said with what that band you just said?
Alice Cooper?
No.
Kiss?
The other one. The one I don't really like.
Rolling Stones.
Rolling Stones. Before then, there wasn't really the stage
showmanship. But I think that's different. Stage presence was very, very prevalent.
When?
In the 60s, because you couldn't go out there and be a boring performer.
Look at the Beatles.
No, but Mick Jagger was a really dynamic performer. Mick Jagger had stage presence. Mick Jagger didn't have showmanship. It's different.
I guess until later. Then he started strutting around.
But no, that to me is that's stage presence. He's been doing that for forever. Strutting around and pursing his lips out like a
But like who else was doing that though? That's what I'm saying. Like they bridged the gap.
That's true. They did bridge that gap between having just stage presence and having like actual showmanship. I feel like when you get into the Alice Coopers and the Kisses of the world, you get more showmanship. They're trying to create a whole experience for you. Not just audio, but visual as well. They're putting in everything that they possibly can. And I feel like you see a lot of that with Pink Floyd too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we can talk about the birth of rock. So we can
The Birth of Rock by Andrew
agree that, I mean, obviously Led Zeppelin was kind of the pioneers, which their first two albums came out in 69, but didn't really become really big in the States till, early 70s, like, everybody knows them now. But so you have the birth of rock, and then we can talk about Black Sabbath, which is the birth of like metal.
Metal, for sure.
Because their first album is very unassuming. The album cover is just a church with a witch person just standing in the middle of it.
Classic.
And, it's down-tuned, drop-down sound, slow, heavy, which was very different than
what was being played at the time. For
yeah, absolutely. Even with Led Zeppelin's, I mean, this is a much darker themed stuff, and even the band name Black Sabbath is very kind of, it's like demonic undertone, kind of like dark, seedy stuff.
Which is really funny to me because when you think about like the issues that people had with like the Rolling Stones and like Sympathy for the Devil, and then you get into this, I feel like it's interesting to me like how much more just daring people got with their music at that time.
Yeah, especially, I mean, this is the 60s, so 60s, early 70s, and this was a huge, I said, this is the first like birth of what, was lots of stuff I listened to, like metal, like dark, deep stuff, which is really cool. You know, drop down stuff, slow, just slowly chugging along.
Yes.
Just it's created a lot of that kind of music, and just to think about it, was in 1970 when this stuff. I mean, listen to that first album now, and it holds up to a lot of the dark metal music that people listen to now, which is awesome.
And this is all like early 70s too. So this is like this is all coming like straight out of the 60s, and and you get your Led Zeppelins who are kind of doing a lot of the same thing, which is interesting. Parker and I were talking about this earlier, and I kind of feel like Led Zeppelin straddles two different subgenres of rock and roll.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot of blues rock because they started as a blues band.
Yes.
And I feel like it's also a lot of like that early heavy metal.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. I really like that. But then you've got, Blue Oyster Cult, which I don't really give a shit about.
Yeah, Blue Oyster Cult. Deep Purple.
Yeah.
Which is, even still now,
people really love Deep Purple.
Still, Smoke on the Water is still the first
Smoke on the Water.
Yeah, still some of the first stuff that people play on bass and guitar. I mean, it's just like, which is
got
awesome.
Some feelings about that,
Mark? Which it still holds up. That's hilarious. But going from there, I always like to talk about more Pink Floyd on the show.
Go for it.
I don't think enough people. But so there's two.
People like Pink Floyd. People just don't know anything about Pink Floyd.
Well, yeah. But so the 70s was a different type of Pink Floyd, because Pink Floyd, you can divvy it up into two eras. Syd Barrett being the mastermind of the band with Saucer Full of Secrets and Piper at the Gates of Dawn, the first couple of their albums.
Sounds like lost Tolkien books.
Yeah, a little bit. So he was an insane person, literally. After he left the band, their first album after that was Dark Side of the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the continuation of that psychedelic rock, which we were talking about earlier, that this was another time when a lot of subgenres really started splitting off, which is awesome and amazing, because I me, I love a good subgenre.
I know you do.
So they carried on that psychedelic-y stuff and created the greatest album ever made, which is Dark Side of the Moon, which I already talked about. But
just kidding.
Yeah. And there's a little kind of almost progressive-y psychedelic stuff, which is my stilo for sure.
For sure it is.
Yeah. But that early 70s stuff starting to split off from not heavy rock, not metal, but continuing and kind of maturing psychedelic rock.
Yes.
Which wasn't like completely into outer space.
No.
But more grounded stuff.
Yes.
And experimenting with different sounds and stuff, which was fun.
Yeah.
And, evolving technology of early synthesizer tape work, which is really cool.
Yeah, well, you even have some of that in like later Led Zeppelin stuff too.
Oh yeah, for
sure. Sure you do. Speaking of which,
go for it.
I just really like to talk about Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Well, you like to talk about Led Zeppelin too, so you can jump in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I like the fact that so obviously the band. I know that the band was formed in the '60s technically, but I don't consider them anything other than a '70s rock band.
They picked up where the Beatles left off.
Yeah, essentially. I feel like they took that growth but at the same time, I feel like their roots were so different because they started out as like a blues outfit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Whereas I feel like the Beatles were picking up where Chuck Berry left off.
Yes.
So I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's kind of cool that it's such like a little chain reaction. But I don't know, that first Led Zeppelin album dropped in like what? 1970?
69.
69?
They dropped the first two were in 69.
Were they?
Yep.
I don't know if you're right. He's right, but I just wanted to say that.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah. But I don't know.
What was that?
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, okay.
Shut up. Anyway, but I don't know. I think that when you really look at the effect that Led Zeppelin had as a whole, and the number of bands that they influenced, I think it's kind of invaluable.
Yeah, I mean, they after the Beatles, Led Zeppelin is the most influential band ever.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have really innovative songwriting. You have songwriting that's about stuff that's deeper. They write about literature and all kinds of shit. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just
Yeah, and I mean, even their first album, they have songs that are over 5 minutes long, which
Well,
the Beatles didn't really start doing that till much later. In
I
their
think the
career.
Beatles were still really, for especially the early part of their career, were still such like slaves to production and like being able to put something out that was so commercially
And
friendly.
singles. and
Yeah,
stuff like
singles.
that.
Whereas like Led Zeppelin had a really hard time with that. They were super. They saw everything that they put out. They saw as like a cohesive piece of work
Yeah.
altogether. It's not to be re-edited into little snippets. It's a part of a greater whole.
Yeah, which we can start talking about progressive rock started to make an appearance, right? So we started moving off from 3-minute, 4-minute songs into like a lot of the kind of the early psychedelic people started kind of making the album had a message, or we wanted to make songs that were 7-10 minutes long
7 to 10 minutes
if we wanted to.
of just
rock. Yeah, which was really weird, especially at that
rock.
time. I mean,
not torture, but
which
rock.
is, I guess, still true nowadays. I mean, what, most songs are 3 minutes and 30 seconds long?
Yeah, and that's the thing is you still see that dichotomy now with artists where you see like Justin. I remember when Justin Timberlake came out with wasn't Lost Tone. What's the fucking name of that album? 2020? 2020 Vision? Whatever that album is. We're gonna look it up.
No idea.
Hold on.
But yeah, so that progressive, that need and want to experiment more and kind of make longer songs because you can, started happening. You have bands like Rush, Yes, King Crimson,
Oh my God, my dad
which
loves Yes.
Enough people don't really know about or listen to. King Crimson is, really, really good kind of progressive rocky stuff. More people should listen to King Crimson.
Yes is also a really good band.
And Yes is a really good band too.
Yes is a really good band.
Which people don't really listen to enough.
I love Yes.
They're like a good, solid, easy to listen to progressive band.
Yes.
I'll admit that King Crimson can be very progressive at times, which can be kind of hard to listen to if you're not used to it.
A little bit like what ended. Okay, so like the psychedelic rock was so huge in the 60s, and I feel like you saw a huge tapering off of that in the 70s. That just wasn't really what people were as into, and I think a lot of that had to do with that whole free love thing ending at Altamont Speedway in 1970.
Yes.
Or 1969, 70, 70, 70, 1970.
70?
Altamont Speedway, 1970. Don't tell my dad that I don't know that. Altamont Speedway. But you had that kind of die off with
69.
69. Yeah, it was like a perfect
December
end.
6th of 69.
Yeah, it was a perfect end parentheses to the 60s.
Yes.
So I feel like because of that, psychedelic rock really like went down in its popularity, and I kind of feel like the prog rock kind of picked up where that left off.
Yeah, it's kind of almost a natural progression of them just more
freeform stuff
to 3-minute songs,
but freeform stuff that sounds more at home. I feel like in the 70s.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think of Jimi Hendrix when I think of the 70s.
No,
it's a completely different sound.
Well, yeah, that lack of psychedelic, experimental, moving more towards progressive versus quote experimental psychedelic rock.
Yes.
Or like weird instruments, starting to use like
synthesizers
gongs and synthesizers and
all I can think about is Rush.
Weird, and like talking about like abstract like things like free will and talking about like sci-fi weird stuff, which is especially Rush is kind of their deal.
That's their bread and butter.
Yeah, I mean a lot of their stuff was very weird.
Yeah. Weird is
just weird.
Fantastic way to put that.
Yeah. Sci-fi fantasy novels.
Yeah.
Even, Led Zeppelin's got, they talk about Lord of the Rings and stuff.
Hell yeah, they do.
So, that kind of stuff is very non-psychedelic, but weird.
Yes. Abstract.
And not
different.
And not afraid to have a whole album that is a cohesive element.
Yes. Which
like
I
getting
love.
away from singles more towards albums.
See, and I feel like if you look at music over time, you see that artists usually that are more not commercially successful necessarily,
Mhm.
but just like successful in general, eventually get away from that perfect song structure of every song is 3.5 minutes. That's what I was talking about. Justin Timberlake, right before he released the 2020 Experience,
Mhm.
which is an okay. The first half of that album's pretty good. The rest of it's kind of no. But when he released that, he talked about, he's like, I was very influenced by Led Zeppelin and a lot of these older bands and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and I figured if they can have a song that's 11 minutes long, why the hell can I do that now?
But yeah, and I think especially maybe now more than because you can download a single right on your computer. It's a lot easier versus getting a 45. But
and Beyonce even talks about
it's a lot easier when you're more successful doing
to release
stuff
something
because you have the power and the clout in the actual studio to say,
I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Well, that's what Beyonce said. She couldn't have done her self-titled album in the early days of her career. Yeah, because she didn't have that kind of clout yet, and she was still very much at the mercy of record executives and her dad, who was her manager at the time, and making everything commercially successful.
Yeah,
whereas
she couldn't say I'm Beyonce. She was just Beyonce. She couldn't say I can do whatever I want. I am Beyonce.
She was still Sasha Fierce at that point. She wasn't quite full-fledged Beyonce.
Exactly. Yeah, and Justin Timberlake, same thing. It's a lot harder now, I think, for bands to be able to do that if you don't have that clout. You can't, swing around in the studio
around and
say, I'm going to do it.
Exactly. You have to build up that, obviously.
Yeah.
But no, I just think it's kind of interesting that even now that's something that a lot of artists that I feel like have actual longevity eventually make that jump and eventually say, okay, this is bullshit. I don't necessarily need my music to be commercially acceptable. I want to make what I want to make.
Yeah,
and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, which I enjoy.
I do too.
And like I said, a lot of this is coming out in this time where they're starting to experiment more. Just awesome, and one of my favorite things.
Absolutely.
Which is why I still listen to a lot of this music because
does he
like that long form, longer songs. It's fun, and they get to, like really express what they're trying to say in their song or whatever.
Yes.
You get a lot more time to do that in a 7-minute song versus a 3-minute song.
Mm-hmm.
And I judge bands a lot of times by how long their songs are.
I think that's fair.
Because if you can't sit down and, not obviously there's a lot of exceptions to this rule, but I judge if you can't sit down and write a 7-minute song. It's like, what are you doing? Like,
I feel like there's two kinds of songwriters. There's songwriters that write songs because they like to write songs, and there's songwriters that write songs because they're really good at creating popular songs.
Yeah, and I skew more towards the bands like trying to has a message or trying to say something, and so
or just trying to make something.
Yeah, they're trying to create good, lasting music, and usually that takes more than 3 minutes at a time.
Not to toot the Beyonce horn again, but
you will too.
I will till the day I die. But like her last 2 albums where she did take that liberty and she did take that chance and she took her time and she reached out to producers and said, this is really what I'm looking to create. Can you help me? And let everybody kind of do what they wanted to do as opposed to make something that was going to be successful.
Yeah.
It made a big difference. And those are her greatest albums that she has ever made.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. God, Lemonade's so good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, moving on to a band that I think, or I guess more of a person that I think more people should listen to in the 70s is Robin Trower. His album Bridge of Sighs. Robin Trower. His album Bridge of Sighs is really, really good. Good bluesy, kind of slow, kind of heavy 70s rock that I think more people should know about. So if you're listening, all 12 of you, and you like 70s rock,
Matt, Robin Trower.
Yeah, Robin Trower, Bridge of Sighs, which is the album. Great. It's definitely his best album. But great good,
It's good stuff.
good stuff.
No
And,
idea. I've never listened to it, but I'm
well,
just gonna.
you should because it's really, really good.
$10 says he makes me listen to that later today.
Probably not.
Hmm.
And then we can talk about one of the greatest songs ever written.
Oh yeah, we listened to this earlier.
Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing. I'm not a huge fan of the band. I probably know 2 or 3 of their songs that I actually care about. But Sultan of Swings,
It's a great song.
yeah, they, like I said, they poured all of their musical creativity into this song.
It's a great example of how you can have a really good, really popular song that does not necessarily follow normal song progression patterns.
Yeah, and it's weird. I wouldn't say they're a one-hit wonder.
They're not a
but
one-hit
they're
wonder.
real close to it, though.
They're close, but they're not a one-hit wonder because they have lots of other songs that are popular.
Lots.
Well, another song that's popular,
Mhm.
which is my favorite Dire Straits song, which is Romeo and Juliet, which I made Parker listen to earlier because I think it's pretty and it's a great example of I feel like it is an elevated, simple love song
Yeah, which I agree. Yeah, for sure.
because it's not, I want to hold your hand,
No.
but it's,
A little bit more mature.
yes, really, but still really sweet and innocent and juvenile. So cute.
Mhm.
Oh, it's such a good song.
Yeah, for sure it is. It's a good classic love song that isn't
Great musicality. in that
kitschy.
band. Yeah, it's not super kitschy. It's a little bit more elevated with the lyrics and everything, but it's, oh God, it's so good.
Yeah.
I love that song. But yeah, Dire Straits is a great band.
Yeah, but it's so weird how good that is. And
Just
their
in
other
general.
songs just aren't near as good.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
But
Do you want to get into another subgenre?
yeah, go for it.
So we could talk a little bit about pop rock.
The
Your-
birth of.
Yeah, your Boston's.
Yeah,
Boston is pop rock. You can make whatever face you want. That's a pop rock band.
but they go into just like regular rock. You could say a tinge of progressive rock.
Yes, because they're using some different instruments and
Yeah, can we talk about
I
their
feel like
album?
they're Rush light.
Yeah, we could say
That's
that.
about as close as to Rush as you're ever going to get me to go.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's more Rush for me.
Okay. I'm just letting you know.
So, if anyone didn't know, Boston.
It's from Boston.
Oh yeah. Also, we need to talk about. So in the '60s, you had like the Beatles, the Zombies, the Turtles,
the Rolling Stones.
the Rolling Stones,
The Birds.
the Yardbirds, the Bird. I mean, just the whatever.
The
In the '70s, you start having bands like based on location.
Boston.
Chicago, Asia, just like one word band names.
Yep.
Which was a
Toto.
weird. Yeah, it's just they dropped the V
Styx.
and they're just like
Foreigner.
this,
Journey.
that. Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
America.
Dire Straits.
Dire Straits. Yeah.
No
Just-
those anymore.
Nope. We got that was the '60s.
Yeah.
We're the '70s. now.
Everything is, and it's mostly one word,
Yes.
which is funny.
Mhm.
Very interesting.
Like one syllable.
one syllable. Styx.
This, that.
So foreigner. Foreigner. That's 3 syllables.
Oof.
You're playing fast and loose.
Yeah. You guys are in the 1970s. We're in the 2070s.
Listen.
Foreigner.
Foreigner.
So, which I thought was a weird little aside.
It is a weird little aside, but yeah, they
Like,
get a lot
based
of
on,
band names named after
Like
places.
geography
Yeah.
names.
a lot of times, and a lot of times it was just where they were from.
Yeah. They're like,
I don't know. What do you want to call it? Boston? Yeah, Boston.
Yeah, sure.
We went to MIT. It's called Boston.
Yeah, also,
off.
a lot of bands were from Boston, Chicago.
It's a lot, which is interesting, I think, because when you get into like the middle part of the 70s and you have like that pop, well, not pop, but you have that punk movement
Mm-hmm.
also originated in specific cities,
Yeah.
but not nearly. I feel like a lot of the music that you were getting in the 60s was really coming from that Haight-Ashbury,
Yeah.
San Francisco kind of a, you know,
West Coast.
yeah, I just think it's Laurel Canyon, that Laurel Canyon sound and everything, like all of that was really contained in this one little pocket of Southern California,
Yeah.
which I think is really interesting. And then you get to the 70s and it's just kind of random
Everywhere.
cities, like random.
Yeah.
It's kind of like eventually when that 60s sound finally got to all these other cities where these kids were not experiencing that at all and they took it and created it into something else.
Yeah.
Which is
yeah.
interesting.
Mhm. Well, birth of, mass radio, TV becoming a huge
Yes.
thing.
Yeah,
So,
you didn't have that pirate radio issue anymore where you were having to
Yeah.
play this popular stuff like
Mhm.
underground.
yeah.
You know, you could. That's the other thing, like radio in the 70s, like was a much bigger thing, I feel like, than it was in the 60s.
Well, that, and you had national TV shows that were showing all of this stuff to, like, people were seeing the Beatles on TV in the 60s.
The Rolling Stones.
And so you're seeing these kids are sitting in their living rooms or
Well, yeah, you always hear
watching the
people
Beatles.
talk about
It's
the
crazy.
Beatles on Ed Sullivan
Yeah, exactly.
and how
Yeah.
big that was.
Because that wasn't
I
a
know
thing before.
the
which is
first time.
Crazy.
So when I was a kid, they used to show Ed Sullivan reruns on PBS.
Mhm.
I've seen the Beatles episode,
Oh yeah.
but
everyone has.
nothing
Yeah,
had a bigger effect on me than the Rolling Stones one.
of course.
Rolling Stones on the Ed Sullivan show, I think, understood what my dad kept trying to explain to me. And I will never forget, there was a moment where I think 6-year-old Lainey was very in love with Mick Jagger. But he was still cute then. He was still kind of like
Oh, he was
19, 20.
young.
Yeah. He was really cute back then.
Yeah, he
And
was a
his
young
big
guy.
old lips. And yeah, I was very. But to be fair, when I was like 6, I mean, my criteria was,
Pretty low.
are they related to me?
Yeah.
No, I'm
Let's-
in love with
let's
them.
do Your world was very, very small.
Very small at that point. But yeah, it was a bigger deal. You did though. Music had a bigger platform, I think. And I do think that like radio and everything had a really big effect on that, you know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So you had bands like Led Zeppelin that were getting played on like mainstream radio.
Yeah.
It would never happen now.
No.
It would never happen now.
No, you can't. That stuff that's definitely long gone.
I think that died in the 90s.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And the death of MTV kind of helped that too.
Yeah.
It's hard to get
the MTV.
the weird people on TV.
It really is hard to get the weird people on MTV. That was a beautiful little moment in the 90s that
You don't
happened.
have Headbangers Ball anymore.
I know.
You get to listen like Pantera on TV. You don't get to. That isn't a thing anymore.
That's not a thing anymore, which is a bummer. It's a
Mhm.
really big bummer. We'll talk about that more when we get to the 90s. That's going to be a fun episode.
Yes.
But that being said, so yeah, you got your Bostons, you got your Journeys. I fucking hate Journey.
Yeah.
I hate Journey. If I never hear about midnight trains going anywhere ever again,
It's Boston Light.
it'll be too soon. It is Boston Light, and
Journey.
Boston is Rush Light. And oh God, how often can we dilute that bullshit?
Are you okay?
No, I fucking hate Journey. I'm so sick of people telling me that I have to like Journey.
Yeah. I don't know why. Is it just it's accessible? Like classic rock?
Don't Stop Believing has, yes, it is that is exactly what it is. It is accessible classic rock. Every white girl and white boy loves Don't Stop Believing. They fucking love it. They think that it is a jam of epic proportions, and it's not. It's not. I can't with fucking Journey. I hate
You're
Journey.
saying you can't even?
I can't even. I hate Journey.
That's
I
okay.
hate it.
You don't have to like it. It's okay not to like Journey. That's
I know.
okay.
Thank you.
You
Thank
just-
you.
you just-
Do you know you're the only person other than my dad who has ever said that to me?
But you have to like Boston though.
I do like Boston. I do
Okay.
like Boston. I like that first album like everybody else does. I do like Boston. I don't love Boston.
Well, you should.
I don't because Boston is so
Awesome? Yeah, I know.
it's too perfect. Everything is too by the book. It's too like musically, like technically perfect. And I don't like it. I like my music to be a little bad.
They play their instruments too well, is what you're saying. Is that what you're trying to
It's like the production and the instruments. Everything is so calculated.
And well done.
I think the Led Zeppelin's is well done, and it doesn't sound like that.
Maybe not their first album.
I don't think that they sound like that. It's just different. It's just different. I think it's too close to Rush for me to like it. The thing I don't like about Rush is that this all culminates in the fact that I hate Rush.
I know.
I don't know. It's too technically perfect. I like a little bit of like gravel in my music. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
But I like Boston. I like Boston just fine. I think the Boston's a really great band. I think that they had a lot of talent. I think that there's a lot to be said for their influence on music in general.
Yeah.
But I just, it's not my favorite.
And that's okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
So we can move on.
Yeah, we can.
We have to talk about Elton John.
Obviously.
So pop rock, and he really kind of spurred another little subgenre of it's rock in its purest form with some little pizzazz, little showmanship, and some popness coming through.
Elton John,
singer-songwriter popness.
I think Elton John is an incarnation of Alice Cooper that went very right.
Yeah, the correct way to do showmanship. Yes.
Yes. I love Elton. I think that Elton John defies genre, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think it's very hard to put him in a category.
But yeah, he is Elton John.
That is his category.
But the closest you can get to
is pop rock.
Yeah, but I mean, incorporating like
popular pop music wasn't really a thing at that point.
But like he played,
he
played piano. Like that was his instrument, which didn't really. Not a lot of main, big, huge.
There weren't a lot of
stadium
bands,
people.
Yes, that played the piano, except for Barry Manilow, and that's a whole other beast.
Well, yeah, that's a whole different thing. But especially in the rock world in the 70s, like I play piano. Oh, by the way, I also have some people that play drums and stuff.
Good at piano.
Yeah,
so it's rocking in my show,
which I really, really like, and yeah, Elton John is just. I mean, he even got knighted, for God's sake.
Yeah, I did. Sir Elton.
I'm sorry, yeah, I should.
Sir Elton. Sir Elton Hercules John.
Yeah, he changed his
That's
name.
his fucking name, dude. That's his name.
Legally, that is his name.
By the way, I'm going to open another drink, so there's going to be sound.
Okay.
Okay, continue.
But yeah, so he created and popularized this pop rock stadium-ish music.
Yes.
And
that everybody liked.
Like everybody
still loves it. It's just good.
Yeah.
I don't know. That man is an enigma.
He is.
He really is.
Is that kind of genre define, or you can't really put him in a.
And you want to talk about somebody that really pushed a lot of boundaries?
Yeah, true.
He really did.
Mm-hmm.
He still is.
Yeah.
I appreciate Elton John.
Yeah.
I really do.
Him thing with the whole him and Eminem being like really good friends. Apparently,
yeah, they're buds.
Which is
I appreciate it. I love it.
Yeah.
He's a national treasure. He's not even from here, and he's a national treasure. England gets kind of annoyed with him,
right?
A lot.
And we're like, we'll take him.
Yeah, we're into it. It's kind of like Julie Andrews. Like she's our princess.
Take them.
She's our American princess.
Yeah.
Even though she's not.
She's not.
No, but I love it. I don't know. Elton John, I really do think he defies a lot of stuff. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is also just a great album.
I have that album. It's great.
You should have that album. It's a great album.
Yeah, I think it's like along with like Thriller. You just like have to.
You need to own that Frampton Comes Alive. You need to have that.
Yeah,
album.
you have to have that. Oh, Frank, we can talk about that earlier.
You want to talk about Peter Frampton?
We can talk about Peter Frampton.
I made a joke earlier, which this is my favorite thing to say. Every kid in the suburbs, especially in that era, was like issued a copy of Frampton Comes Alive.
Yeah.
Every single middle-class kid had that album.
And even if you don't, you've heard
the
words
that album.
Frampton Comes Alive in the sentence before. Like you've heard that.
Never in my life have I heard of a live album being that popular.
And I hate live.
I hate live albums. There is one good live album that the Rolling Stones did called Get Your Yayas Out, and it's
no one likes that though.
It's so good. It's hilarious. Yeah. It's hilarious. But it's them doing a bunch of Chuck Berry covers.
I'm okay.
That doesn't surprise me.
But yeah, Peter Frampton Comes Alive. Frampton just obviously innovating and doing crazy stuff on guitars and voice boxes and the whole deal.
I mean, you want to talk about progressive? Like,
yeah,
just experimenting every which way. I am never not amazed. I forget that Peter Frampton is the same Peter Frampton that's done all the things that Peter Frampton has done. Peter Frampton is only 72. I don't think that's old. And like the amazing career that he has had is just, it baffles me. It absolutely baffles me. It's incredible. Yeah, Frampton Comes Alive. I feel like if you're going to pick like top 10 albums of the 70s, that's got to be in there.
That has to,
that's in there.
That's a top 10
for sure. That's in there.
Another 70s person we can talk about is Mr. Slowhand himself, Eric Clapton. because guitars, some of the greatest guitarists still that people know today were born in the late, not born, came out in the late 60s and became very prominent in the 70s. Cream, Eric Clapton.
I love Cream.
All that is just Blind Faith, all that stuff still holds up, which is amazing. Santana, we can talk about Santana being just
continuing to be amazing in the 70s.
Is still
born in the late 60s,
and just doing insane amount of stuff. Prolific as well, lots and lots of albums, guest starred in a bunch of stuff. Did just insane things in the 70s.
I feel like he started that career, got his name out in the late 60s, especially with the whole Woodstock thing.
Yeah.
Then really cemented himself as somebody to be contended with.
And then he's in the
I remember
top 10 5 guitarists of all time.
I remember my dad telling me a story if he got in trouble at a church roller skating party because they needed music to play there. And he, being who he is, being my dad, was like, yeah, I'll help. And brought a bunch of stuff and got in huge trouble for playing Black Magic Woman.
Yeah, because that was the devil's music.
Yeah, because it was at a church event in the in the 60s, not even, like in the 70s. Like, Dad. Oh, but yeah, I don't know. I grew up listening to a lot of Santana, so that to me is, I don't know.
And kind of brought a lot of that like
Latin feel,
Latin fusion-y stuff into mainstream white America, which awesome.
They desperately needed.
Did they?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it was a great added addition for sure.
It was a very helpful addition.
Marambas, weird.
Get you some bongos and shit.
Crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, a little salsa in there, all kinds of good shit.
Yeah, and brought that little Hispanic flavor to
a very something that I think back then nobody would have thought would have gone together.
Yeah,
but went together very well. Genuinely lended itself to each other very, very well.
Oh, absolutely.
So, little cross genre stuff.
Which another little subgenre.
Oh, I love Santana.
Awesome.
I don't like Santana as much now, but I love Santana.
Yeah.
He's kind of an idiot now.
Well,
he says all kinds of stuff that he shouldn't be saying.
He's kind of turned out to be kind of an insane person.
Yeah, kind of like Ted Nugent. You want to talk about Ted Nugent?
No.
Ted Nugent was a genuine thing in the 70s, though. That was a thing.
Oh yeah.
I really liked Ted Nugent back then.
Yeah, which is fine because played good music.
Yeah, but now he's fucking nuts.
He's kind of a crazy person.
Crazy person.
But that's okay.
No.
We can be crazy.
I don't know if he's the right kind of crazy.
Oh. Well, that's
He's a nutbag.
Yeah,
as far as subgenres go, you want to talk a little Southern rock?
We can talk about some
Which did not really become a thing until the 70s.
Yes.
You had
the true birth of
Southern rock.
Americana / Southern rock.
Which I don't think that those are the same thing necessarily.
No,
well, they are and they're not. They're
kind of both American made.
Yes.
But they are slightly different.
Standing on either sides of a river yelling at each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
With the mainstream music between them. Right?
So stupid.
Oh,
that was really good. That was good. I appreciate that. So you got obviously your Leonard Skinner.
Yes.
Which I think everybody thinks of when you think of Southern rock. Which, Jesus Christ, how many people have been in that band?
Like everyone, I think
there's one guy that's from the original lineup that's still in that band.
I think so.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I've seen Leonard Skinner live. I'm not going to lie.
Which?
I saw Leonard Skinner when they were touring with Three Doors Down.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
Because they couldn't get anyone else to.
Then neither could Three Doors Down.
Yeah, because it's 3 Doors Down.
Yeah. It was bad. Oh, it was so bad. But I tell you what, nothing was funnier than seeing the different worlds
colliding. And that audience was probably vastly different.
Vastly different, all the same level of drunk.
Well, yeah.
Awful. 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 Awful show.
But yeah, so Southern rock, which still stands today with different rock stuff, Southern music is always a little dirtier, a little.
Got you, so yeah.
not quite
Less
as
polished.
polished.
Less polished.
Usually kind of like drop down stuff.
Yes.
A little slower.
Yes.
And just dirtier feel to it. Even like
Yes.
modern rock music within different genres.
Yes.
You can tell
The Southern
when
band.
it's a Southern band.
Kings of Leon's early stuff.
Yes. Yeah, which is
A great example of that.
yeah. There's something about just being in the South that kind of makes it just a little dirtier,
We're a little lazy.
Yeah, I guess.
We're exhausted after getting off of work.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
But yeah, I find that funny that that's still kind of prevalent, or not prevalent, but true today, that it's Southern bands, especially in rock music, it still has that same grittier feel.
I think
Pretty
it's
cool.
like the hardcore like blues influence though, because I feel like
Probably.
that is a constant undercurrent of everything. That is a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
Southern form of music.
Yeah, uniquely
like.
Southern. For
Yes,
sure.
very uniquely Southern. So I think that because of that, because it is such a huge influence down here,
Mhm.
that's why. That has to be why.
Yeah,
That-
because I
don't
mean
know.
that blues, jazzy blues music is dirtier, grittier, kind of slower
Yes.
feeling to it.
which I like
Yeah,
personally.
which I like how that's still happening, which
Mm-hmm.
is a nice little tip, my lady.
Tip of the fedora to you, my lady.
Yeah, to the South. which
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
But you got other Southern, like the Allman Brothers.
Allman Brothers,
A
yeah.
big deal. Very
Ooh,
big deal.
yeah.
The Allman Brothers.
Yeah, especially in the South,
Oh, for sure.
which is awesome. I like that southern feel. I'm still attracted more to that.
That's
And then,
fair.
like I said, the Americana music, which,
Yes.
like the Eagles, is a really good example of
Americana music.
just rock music in America.
Yes.
You can't really break them down into, because you can't really call them Southern rock because they don't.
What
have
people
a-
do though, people call that Southern rock, but I
agree.
think it's such a different sound. I don't think it sounds the same.
Yeah.
I don't think you could classify it audially as Southern rock. I think you're right. I think it's more Americana.
Yeah.
And we were talking a little bit about different bands that would come into that same genre, like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Yes.
I love Tom Petty.
Mhm.
Love Tom Petty.
Just good rock
Yeah,
music.
good rock music. Good popular rock music that was popular and awesome at the same time. Lots of different stuff coming out. Great songwriting.
Mhm.
Great musicianship. All kinds of good stuff.
And very influential as well.
Very influential. I love that. I love Tom Petty. And then Bruce Springsteen is another really great example. That I feel like Bruce Springsteen kind of encapsulates Americana because he's singing
Yeah.
about working class people.
Yes.
He's singing about just like real everyday struggles, and it's music that reaches a little bit of everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just very, very much that Americana kind of.
Yeah, it doesn't target, specific, just kind of, hey, we're all in this, and
It's for the masses, and it also happens to be very good.
Yeah.
I love Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, I know.
But weirdly, I don't like Bruce Springsteen's like "Born in the USA." I can't hate that song.
Yeah, how much more American can you get?
Yeah.
And it's
"Born to Run." Don't really care for that song either.
Does he have other songs?
Yes.
Does he?
My favorite Bruce Springsteen song is "Atlantic City."
Yeah, like who sings about Atlantic City?
Bruce Springsteen.
Nobody.
He's from Jersey.
Apparently, because no one else would sing.
"Dancing in the Dark" is a great song.
I have no idea.
That's a great song.
I doubt it.
Oh, we're gonna fight later. But yeah, so but yeah, I like a lot of those kind of Americana bands. Weirdly, those were bands that my dad taught me about,
Mhm.
but I don't think that was where a huge part of my musical education came from him.
Yeah,
That was more stuff that I looked at myself.
Yeah, I never really got into that kind of stuff. Just like the bigger band, like
You wouldn't call
20
that
people on
stadium rock, would
stage.
you?
Yeah, that's
Like early
probably-
parts
that's-
of early stadium rock.
That's probably the origins of what
Stadium
you'd call
bands.
stadium rock.
That makes sense.
It's non-obtrusive to everybody, but it's not really anything.
Yeah,
It's just music
yeah.
that happens to have guitars.
Well, but
and-
we lucked out, and in the
drums in it.
70s, it was actually good.
Yeah, I guess.
Tom Petty. Awesome.
I would. Yeah, I guess Tom Petty
I love Tom Petty.
would be stadium rock. Yeah, like
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying like true stadium rock, but I'm just saying like the origins of stadium
Yeah,
rock.
probably. Yeah.
Like these are bands that were very, very popular to a lot of different people.
Yeah, for sure.
I know somebody that got asked out by Tom Petty.
Who?
My friend, a family friend named Cece. She lived in California at the time. And she said that this dude showed up at a place that she worked. Or so I think so. I think he showed up at a place that she worked. She was like, yeah, really goofy looking guy.
Yeah, it's gotta
Blonde
be Tom
hair,
Petty.
gangly. Yeah, she was like, and he was telling me, he's like, yeah, my band's playing at a club tonight. You should come. And she was like, yeah. And he was apparently he stood her up. He was like supposed to come pick her up. And she didn't really think anything of it because she didn't
Right.
really care that much. And he wasn't like,
Awesome.
you know, not like she was getting asked out by like Lee Majors or anything. So, so she.
Lee Majors.
That was, we're talking about the 70s.
Yeah,
So,
I'm right there with you.
Anyway, so she said that later she was at her girlfriend's house and was just like looking through some of her albums or whatever, and she saw a Tom Petty album and went, "Who's this guy?" And her friend tells her, she goes, "That's the guy that asked me out." So yeah, she apparently got asked out by Tom Petty.
Crazy.
Hilarious. She's lived. She's lived a life.
Apparently.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I love that story. I'm like, really? Like he stood you up? Because like she was pretty fly in the 70s. Like cute little Southern California girl, tan skin, bright blonde hair, super outdoorsy and active.
Tom Petty was all over this.
Adorable. And Tom Petty stood her up.
Yeah, right. Well, he probably had groupies
No,
all over the place.
Sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah. So what about like new wave?
What about it?
So in the 70s, you also had like the birth of bands like the Police. Police was more late 70s though. And I
Yeah.
don't feel like they really hit their stride until the 80s.
I consider the Police
An 80s band,
band.
so do I. Well, you have the Cars though, which was also late 70s.
I consider the Cars
Yeah.
an 80s band.
I feel like new wave was something that kind of broke off from that whole progressive rock thing,
Yes.
but got its start in the 70s. Late 70s, but the 70s with like Talking Heads, the Cars,
Yep.
Police, all that good stuff.
Yep.
So that I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of in the 80s.
But yeah, you start getting that that progression from 70s rock music, and then you start seeing just like everything else, there's things start evolving and changing, and you start getting into that kind of what I consider 80s rock.
Yes.
That stuff's starting to kind of blend and change, and you get synthesizers start coming in, and
Yes.
we can talk when we get to the 80s. We'll talk about how the 80s ruined so many good bands, in my opinion.
It's a true fact, though.
Not a huge fan of the 80s.
But still a lot of important things to talk about.
A lot of things happen, and there are some good things that come out of the 80s music-wise. But yeah, you start seeing those influences and things. The rock music really changed in the 80s.
Yes, it did.
Massively.
Music changed in the 80s massively.
Yeah. And then into the 70s, I guess since we're kind of wrapping up the 70s.
Well, I have something in the mid-70s that we need to talk about.
Well, then talk about it.
So what about the punk movement? That Parker knows literally nothing about.
Yeah, go for it.
This is all me. So 74 to 76, you've got kind of the punk rock movement, which is funny because we're talking about like a lot of bands in the 70s coming from places like Boston and Chicago. And I think it's kind of interesting. Like, you have obviously these like metropolises of these huge cities where all of this music comes from because it's a lot of different people coming from a lot of different places.
Yeah.
But New York and London were both kind of like the places where like the punk rock movement really, really got started.
Yeah.
And so you've got bands like the Ramones, who I love Ramones, coming from New York in the 70s, and you've got bands like Sex Pistols, who I fucking hate, coming around in the 70s. You got the Clash. Clash is a great band. The Clash is a great band.
No.
Don't make that face at me. The
They're
Clash is a
not.
great band.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Awful music.
How dare
Awful.
you. No.
Yes.
No.
Yep.
You're wrong.
Nope.
You are wrong. Television is a good band.
I've never even heard of that.
Okay, well, that's another New York punk band. But yeah, the New York Dolls came out. That was a thing. They heavily influenced Kiss, actually, because
Yikes.
they used to wear a lot of makeup and stuff on stage too. Well, just their showmanship.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's kind of funny though because like you have the punk music that comes out that people are playing in places like BCBG in New York and all these like more underground clubs and stuff. You got Blondie. Blondie started off in the pop and like the punk movement, but Blondie kind of broke off and started doing more like ska, early ska.
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Like second wave ska.
Yeah, second wave ska stuff. Exactly. So, but I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting because you have this musical culture that's starting in these underground clubs in New York and London and all this kind of good stuff, and it really spawns like a cultural movement. You have these kids that are
closely tied to culture movement.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's coming. I don't know. It's interesting too, especially in London. It's a really big thing in London. You got people kind of getting angry and fighting against like Margaret Thatcher and the royalty that are it's kind of interesting.
Like
I think
saying like fuck the Queen and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting to me like how closely tied those two things were. That to me echoes the 60s. That to me echoes like that whole we're really angry about a lot of things that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna write songs about it. It kind of reminds me of the whole Buffalo Springfield.
And we don't know how to play our instruments, so we're gonna play 2 chords and yell into a microphone.
Which you see again in the 90s with the girl punk bands. Leave me alone.
Yep.
Who fucking cares? It's important music that they were making at the time. The Ramones are also really, really good, and so is the Clash.
No.
Yes, they are. You're wrong.
I could play all of their songs.
That's not the point. That's not the point. You can say that about any rock song.
What?
Shut up. Leave me alone. I like the Ramones.
I know you do.
I like the Clash.
And a lot of people do.
I love the Clash. Anyway, so on the total flip side of that, you got your soft rock. You got your pop rock.
Ah, yes.
Ah, yes. You got your Billy Joels, so to speak. Your Cat Stevens.
Cat Stevens.
Your James Taylors.
Yes.
Your Doobie Brothers.
Which, Doobie Brothers kind of southern pop rock.
Southern pop. That's exactly right. They are kind of
the softer side of.
I do really love the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah.
I still to this day maintain that Listen to the Music has some of the best harmonies.
Yes.
Ever.
Well, that whole band, their harmonies were spot on. Mm-hmm.
It's a great band. It's a really good band.
Yeah.
Don't skip the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah.
It's a good band to explore.
At least, if nothing else, go through their greatest hits.
Oh, yeah. You don't have to, this isn't a deep cuts band.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say this is a deep cuts band.
You don't have to.
No. But
you can get most of what they're trying to do from their greatest hits.
Yes.
Album, for sure.
You got your Hall & Oates.
Hall as well as Oates.
Hall in addition to Oates.
Yes.
Don't care for Hall & Oates.
Not one person, not Holland Oates.
Holland Oates.
It's Hall
and Oates. I don't care for Hall & Oates. To me, Hall & Oates was like
the poor man's
Simon and Garfunkel. I already had Simon and Garfunkel. I didn't need Hall & Oates.
Very true.
I really did it. And also, for the longest time, I thought it was Holland Oates. Like HAULIN apostrophe.
Holland them Oates. Yeah. Just a bunch of oats.
Needless to say, that was not something that was on heavy rotation in my household growing up.
Yes.
You the Carpenters. I love the Carpenters. Karen Carpenter, one of the best vocalists of all time.
That's very true.
One of the most beautiful voices ever. I love the Carpenters. There's a really good cover album. I think we've mentioned it on the show. It's called If I Were a Carpenter.
Understated
Very understated band.
Really good, but they didn't really like.
They were very, very popular.
Yeah, but not like flashy, but really understated band.
Understated band that had a lot of just actual true talent. I love Karen Carpenter. I remember growing up hearing the Carpenters a lot and wanting to be able to sing like that. She's just, I love her. I absolutely love her. She had such a sad little life, but I love the Carpenters. But again, really, really good cover album. If I Were a Carpenter, lots of really cool covers of great Carpenter songs. You should go check it out.
And we have to say, you're talking about 70s, we have to say John fucking Denver.
John fucking Denver.
The only person where you have to say fucking Denver.
As a true fact.
Yeah. You can't just say John Denver.
Oh, John Denver. Everybody I know sings Take Me Home, Country Roads.
Great song.
It is a great song. And every time I hear someone sing that song, I think of that scene in The Office where Andy and Dwight are like dueling on it. Yeah. And Toby bangs on the You have to stop. So good. And then you have Chicago, which if I have one more person tell me I need to like Chicago.
You don't have
I was telling Parker this. Everybody, when they find out I know anything about music and that I like classic rock, they love to cite Chicago to me. They love it. They absolutely love doing it.
But Why? It's Chicago.
Because a lot of these people have parents that listened to this kind of shit in the 70s. I hate it. I fucking hate Chicago.
It's who cares about Chicago?
But a lot of people, but soft rock did give birth to a band that I love very much, and that's Fleetwood Mac.
Yes.
That's a great band.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really great band, and had really funny origins because they started off as a British blues band.
Which they still had very heavy blues influences in there.
Yes, they did have very heavy. But who are the founding members? I have to look it up. So it's Peter Green and Mick Fleetwood and Jeremy Spencer. So they came over. They were basically not doing super, super well. So in '74, like a couple of dudes had already left the band, and they came over to America. They were looking for like new people to add, and so they met Lindsey Buckingham,
yes,
who at the time was dating Stevie Nicks. They were like their own little folk rock duo.
Yeah,
they're traveling around, and then
living the '70s dream.
Yes, and so they really, really, really wanted Lindsey Buckingham to be in the band. They really wanted him to be their new guitarist.
Yeah.
And he basically said, like, I'll join. You have to bring Stevie on too. You have to bring Stevie on too.
Yeah.
So lucky for Stevie Nicks. You gotta, I mean.
Lucky for us, dude, Stevie Nicks was there too.
Right? Hitch yourself to that wagon, girl. I love it. And that's how we got Fleetwood Mac. You know, they obviously added other members, but Stevie Nicks is the one that's the most important to me. But like Rumors is one of the best albums I think of all time. But it's definitely a top 10 70s album.
Yeah, probably.
I would say so.
Probably.
I would absolutely say so. Yeah. It was a huge album. And
saved the band.
It did save the band. Well, that's the thing is that band was dealing with a lot of internal turmoil.
Conflicts.
Because everybody's breaking up and dating and all this kind of crazy stuff that's going on.
Well, it was the 70s sex party was what that band was.
So I do though. I love Fleetwood Mac. But yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Fleetwood Mac, you don't necessarily have to, if you don't know anything about Fleetwood Mac, you don't have to dive in super, super deep. But like greatest hits and then Rumors, I feel like.
Just listen to Rumors, which is their greatest hits.
It is a great album. But yeah, Rumors is a great, great, great album.
Yeah.
But yes, and then I've waxed philosophical to Parker for about a half hour about how I feel like in another life I could have totally had Stevie Nicks' life. But I didn't. So, okay. But what else, Mr. Parker?
I don't know. I mean, for rock, that's about it probably. Well, plus we gotta do our homework.
We do. Yeah. So I mean, that's about all we got for 70s rock.
We'll have to do the everything else.
Yeah, so we're going to do another part for the 70s because we just decided that there was absolutely no way, obviously, to talk about all of that all at the same time. So we'll hit some of the other genres that were big and some like the disco and all that kind of good stuff.
Oh, baby. You know we're going to talk about ABBA.
Oh, baby. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in another episode. But I guess it's time to go ahead and move on to some homework review.
Which I'm sure everyone has already memorized what we talked about last time.
I'm sure everybody's waiting.
So, what was your homework?
My homework was an album titled Soul Below by Elle Jones. I didn't like it.
No?
No. Damn. I tried so hard. I listened to it a lot. I had a hard time getting through it each time.
Really?
For me, it felt like elevator music. It felt like soft jazz, and I can't do soft jazz. I can definitely see why you like it.
So I guess I won't give you another band that's similar to that then.
You could. I could always. I'm always.
Well, then you're not going to like it. Yeah. If you don't like this, you're definitely not going to like this.
I didn't like this. I felt really bad, too. I felt super guilty for like a week about the fact that I didn't like it.
I'm surprised you like most of the things I've given you.
I'm eclectic. I'll try just about anything, but this for me was just it was too chill.
Well, see, I figured you would like the chillness, so you just didn't like.
And you're not wrong. I would like the chillness. I'm a weird folky, that's my jam. But I don't like.
So, was there anything you did like, or just nothing?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
I didn't like any of it. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I didn't like any of it.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
Okay, well, I guess it's my turn then.
Yeah, it is your
turn. So I had listened to Continuum. Came out in 2006.
Yes, it did.
By Mr. John
Clayton
Mayer. It was pretty good. I could understand why you liked this song a lot when you were a teen. Or this whole entire album. While you were a impressionable teen.
Well, it came out when I was 15.
Yeah, exactly. And I could definitely see. No,
I was 16.
16.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can definitely see how this spoke to you. But John Mayer, I mean, obviously, really, really, really good guitarist.
Talented guitarist.
And I didn't, because I mean, I've heard of John Mayer, obviously, and I've listened to,
You've
several
listened to some stuff.
of his songs.
I
for
played
sure.
you some stuff.
But I didn't know how different the songs were going to be on this album. They were very different from each other. A lot of experimenting with different instruments and sounds, and
that's why I love this album so much.
Most songs were different from each other, which I really, really liked. And I didn't know that basically this is his greatest hits album.
This is his best album.
I
think this is his best album.
I didn't realize that
I wouldn't say this is his greatest hits album, because I feel like his greatest hits album was his first 3 albums.
I would say that this is the songs that I've heard from him just from living in the world as an American. Most of them on this album, like, oh, I've heard this song before, and I didn't know they were all on this one album.
Really?
Yes, really.
Oh, see, because I think that most people know, like, Your Body is a Wonderland and, like, Why Georgia and all that shit that came out when he was really first starting.
Oh, no. Most of the songs I was like, oh, I've heard this song, and then
Have you heard the song because you've heard that song, or have you heard that song because you're friends with me?
No, just from living in the world as an American.
That's fair.
Yeah, good album. I'd like to hear what his earlier stuff sounded like.
No, you wouldn't.
Because I don't know, was this like a watershed?
This was a huge departure from his early stuff.
Okay.
This was a huge departure from his early stuff.
So
his early stuff was that, that like acoustic-y guy with a guitar thing that was really popular in the early 2000s.
Well, see,
your Ryan Cabrera's,
which I could hear,
Mr. A to Z's, Jason Mraz's.
But I would like to hear that to see how he evolved.
Progressed.
I can definitely tell that he evolved in this album, even though I've never even heard a lot of his earlier stuff, probably.
Yeah.
But
this album to me, when I first heard it, was more bluesy, and that's, I think, why I loved it.
Yeah.
It, for me, I liked John Mayer up to that point, but this album was totally different. It was something that I did not hear from him before, and I loved it. It spoke to me on that level of, yes, I'm 16. Yes, I grew up in the 90s. Yes, I loved NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys as a kid, but I also grew up listening to Led Zeppelin and B.B. King and, all these other big name fancy pants people that were big in like way before I was born.
Right.
And so I had somewhat of an appreciation for actually good music.
Yeah.
And that's what this spoke to.
And then I can hear the Jimi Hendrix stuff, which is pretty cool.
For sure. Yeah. Well, that's how he taught himself how to play guitar that way.
I mean, I don't doubt I can hear it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so good album. I appreciated it.
Any standout songs that you liked?
Gravity.
Well, yeah, everybody likes Gravity. It's a great song.
Yeah, so that would be the standout.
Okay.
But I mean, that was kind of already knew that.
Yeah.
Because I knew about Gravity because it's a great song. Yeah, great guitar work. And sweet segue, because I know John Mayer, definitely for modern times, is probably one of the most important guitarists of like the modern time.
Absolutely he is.
Which made me think of another really, really important guitarist, which will segue into
the homework you're assigning me.
I'm going to assign you.
Okay.
So, the homework, actually you go first. I gotta.
Oh, he has to look it up. So my homework that I'm actually assigning you, is something that I know you've heard some of their stuff because I have played it for you.
Yes.
But it's a band that I really, really love. Kind of a more biggest indie-ish band. They have a very 60s SoCal sound that I really like, but it's a band called Best Coast.
Best? Is it the West Coast is the Best Coast?
Yeah, Best Coast. Best Coast. And I want you, I can never remember the name of this album. I want you to listen to their 2010 debut album, which is titled Crazy for You. So it's got, I was a little nervous to assign this to you because I know you're not really a huge fan of that like lo-fi 60-something, but I think
lo-fi's not too bad.
This to me is something that I don't think you would listen to on your own, and I think you'll appreciate the influences in the band.
Hmm.
I love this album. I own this album on vinyl so much. That's how much I love it. It's a really, really good album. They just write kind of cool songs. Some of it is that very like early Beach Boy sensibility of songwriting, and some of it I feel like it's a little bit deeper. I really love this band, and I feel like you might enjoy some of it. So that's gonna be your homework.
Sweet.
Yeah. What you got for me?
Okay. So my pick for you is Buckethead.
Oh God, I knew it.
And his album Albino Slug, which is
You've
really,
had me listen to stuff from this album.
yeah,
before.
but not the entire album.
No.
But yeah, so Buckethead, if people haven't heard of him, has come out with over 200 albums and is featured in hundreds of songs from other artists. He is a insanely prolific artist
Mm-hmm.
and really, really influential within the as a guitarist. And John Mayer made me think of him because these two guys are some of the greatest guitar players of our generation, and I think more people should listen to it.
Okay.
Yeah, so Buckethead, if you can't, just look him up because he's insanely, insanely good.
Okay.
And so this one came out in 2008.
All right.
Yeah, but he has just insane. Yeah. So from the Wikipedia, total number of studio albums, special releases, extended plays, demo tapes, and works with other bands and projects is 379. The dude makes an insane amount of music.
That is too much.
Yeah, he has over 300 studio albums, which is absolutely insane. So
That's a lot.
So yeah, that's your homework.
That's a lot.
Yep.
All right. All right. So I guess we'll move on to not pick or pan, wrong show. Play or skip.
Play or skip.
Play
Yes.
or skip. You got anything?
Yeah, actually I do.
What you got?
So what everyone needs to listen to is the album Elegant Gypsy by Al Di Meola.
I knew you were gonna say this.
It is one of my most favorite albums, probably one of my top 10 albums of all time. From this mid-70s. It's kind of progressive-y rock stuff. Just really, really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Great guitar playing. Kind of like a lot of Spanish influences, kind of Spanish guitar. A lot of synthesizer-y stuff.
Yes.
Highly recommend it. Great. That is my pick for the week.
Okay. I'm looking at, for whatever reason, my mind has gone totally blank and I can't remember the name of this album all of a sudden. But I am going to talk about a Rolling Stones album as my pick that I have been listening to a lot of. One of the reasons that we've been gone for so long, thank you. You are a gentleman and a scholar.
What you got?
Way back here. Yeah. So one of my favorite Rolling Stones albums has always been Exile on Main Street. I think that it is one of their best albums. I think that the issue that they were having trying to get it recorded really, really lend to the album. I've watched an entire documentary on how this album was created. It's a great album. I feel like it was a little bit of a departure from their like very Chuck Berry-ish sensibility, and they kind of started making things that were a little bit more bluesy, which is probably why I like it so much. But one of the reasons that we've been gone for so long is there's been some stuff going on, I know, in my life. And this album I've been listening to a lot on repeat lately. And it makes me really, really happy. It's very much where my musical taste, I think, comes from. But it's just a really good album. I think it's the best Rolling Stones album. That's the album that I keep in my car all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And just in case, for whatever reason, I can't play music off of my phone and I can't play it off my iPod, I know that I can listen to that album over and over and over again and be a very happy camper. So yeah, that's my favorite. That's my pick, or that's my play for right now. In fact, that's my homework to all of you. If you don't really know anything about 70s music, album came out in 72. Yeah, I think it was 71 or 72. It's a really good album. You should go listen to it. It's fantastic. So highly recommend it. Go check it out and just enjoy some Rolling Stones realness. Good stuff.
Realness.
It is. It's so good. It's a really good album.
Good.
And I guess that's it.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. So thanks guys for
Listening to us ramble on.
Ramble On, which is also a really good song that came out in the 70s.
is.
We'll be back hopefully in a few weeks.
Yep.
With another rendition of all of this. But for now, that's all we got. So for myself and my co-host, have a good night.
Goodbye.
And we're clear.
And we're clear?
Okay, we got to do a show card though.
Okay.
All right. Oh, I'm trying to think. We talked about it's easy. 70s music.
Yeah.
All right.
70s rock.
70s rock. All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Hey guys, on this new episode of Epic Rhythm and Brews, Parker and I wax philosophical about 70s rock.
There was too much to say about 70s, so we had to split it up, and we still talked too long.
And we still talked too long. I'm so sorry. But we've been gone for so long that we figured maybe you would enjoy a little bit of extra.
Yeah, we talked for a long time about 70s rock.
It was really good.
Talked a little bit about how Elaine hated my homework.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not. Yeah, lots of talking, good stuff. You should listen to it.
But we're stoked to be back, though. We missed you guys. So.
Yeah, and we're going to try to get more regular now.
For sure. So I'm taking that fiber, becoming more regular.
Yep.
We got it.
Fantastic.
All right. So stick around and check us out.
Yes. And we're out.
We're out. Let's stop our podcast.